Good evening. Welcome to the Nipawin District Chamber of Commerce All Candidates Forum for the Nipawin Mayoral election of 2024. My name is Ben Paskirk. I'll be your moderator this evening. I just want to give a few thank yous, first of all, to the Chamber and Lisa for organizing this event. I want to thank our three candidates, Brian Starkel, Marlon Zacharias, and Carrie Skoronsky, for attending. The Nipawin Apostolic Church has been kind enough to lend us their beautiful facility for our event. I want to thank Norm Rudock and CGNE, The Storm, for broadcasting our event on the radio. And let's get underway. So Jean Mack is going to be timing for us this evening. Thank you, Jean. Bonnie Bredner, Lisa Suchland, and Cindy Sass will be screening questions. Yuri Daniluk will be gathering the questions. So if anybody has questions, you'll find pads of paper and pens at the back that you can write your question on, and just hold it up and Yuri will come and collect it from you and bring it to the screeners. So like I said before, we have our three candidates this evening. The incumbent Marlon Zacharias, Carrie Skoronsky, and Brian Starkel. We drew for the order of speaking, and Brian will speak first, then Carrie, and then Marlon. That's just for opening statements, and then we'll cycle as the evening progresses. I just want to quickly go over the rules. Like I said, the order of placement was drawn prior to the forum, and each candidate will have a 5-minute opening statement presentation. They'll be given a 1-minute time remaining signal for that opening statement, and then another with 10 seconds left, just for the opening statement. At 7 p.m. we'll have a brief 10-minute coffee break. The audience will have the opportunity to write down and submit questions at any time. All of our questions will be screened to make sure the questions are not asked multiple times. And like I said before, you just raise your hand if you have a question and Yuri will come collect it from you. We'll be taking written questions both from the floor and online. We are broadcasting on Facebook as well. I'm going to be directing questions to individuals if that question comes up, but I'll try to keep it in the order of the cycle that we have going for those particular questions. And when the questions are asked, each candidate will have a 2-minute time limit to respond, and there'll be a 30-second time remaining signal just to let them know to wrap up. At the end, each candidate will have 3 minutes to make a closing statement. And I'd like to just thank everybody for attending and the candidates for participating. So Brian will begin with his opening statement. Oh yes, if could everybody please place their phones on silent, just so there's no distractions.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Ben, you stole all my thank yous at the beginning of my speech, so we won't get into that part. But I want to thank the Chamber for hosting this event, and then the Apostolic Church for allowing us to use their facility. I'd also like to thank all the other candidates here for leaving their name stand. As everybody is aware that I'm a long-term resident of the Nipawin area, and I'm proud to call Nipawin home. I served in cadet on council for 8 years, and I believe with that experience and my administration experience in Nipawin here, I'd be a strong candidate for our community as mayor. Transparency and honesty would be at the top of my list. Further focus on economic development is needed to ensure that we attract new business to our area. Build a strong working relationship with other municipalities. One of the concerns about is health and safety of our residents. That's why we'll be all working very closely with the RCMP and helping to reduce crime in our area. I believe that we're all saying the same thing, that we want Nipawin to be a great place to grow. There's no way I can do this by myself. I need everybody's help in working with this. That includes council, administration staff, the outside staff, and also all the residents of this town. We must keep open-minded and listen to our residents at the rest of the council members as well, willing to change. When I was in Philadelphia a few years ago, I said this last time at the last debate, is that every person that goes into the Oval Office, Laura Bush said they're trying to do the best that they can, and I believe that's what we are trying to do here in Nipawin. I believe that this is here in Nipawin will be safe if elected. Once we would leave a little better place to how we found it. In closing, I look forward to working with you. So thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Next, we have Carrie.
Good evening, residents of Nipawin. I'm Carrie Skronsky, and I'm truly honored to sit before you, it says stand, but as a candidate for mayor in this incredible town. Nipawin is so much more than a place where I live. It's a place I'm proud to call my home. It's a place where values like hard work, community, and connections are the foundation of our lives. I'm ready to work alongside each one of you to build a future that truly reflects our community's needs, values, and dreams. I was born in Yorkton, I won't tell you what year though, where my family owned and operated Kunish's Grocery and Meats. Growing up in my family's business, I quickly learned the value of hard work, customer service, the strength that comes from community connections, and I have so many fond memories of helping my grandpa deliver groceries, oftentimes carrying bags just as big as I was. Those early experiences taught me so much about service and building relationships, and I learned that even small actions could make a real difference. Those values of service and connections are ones I carry with me today. In 1991, I chose to pursue a career in the beauty industry. This was no easy path. I pushed myself to complete my 10-month cosmetology program in just 8 months. With hard work and determination, I became an interprovincial journeyman cosmetologist just 2 years later. And in 1999, I opened my very first salon, and I built it from the ground up with countless hours of dedication and grit. Starting a business from scratch was challenging, but it taught me what it truly means to create something meaningful, put in the work, and persevere through the obstacles. Beyond running my business, I became deeply involved with my community in Yorkton. I joined the Chamber of Commerce, served on the board for the Short Film and Video Festival, volunteered at the hospital canteen, and contributed to the Ladies Golf Club. Each role was a way for me to connect and give back and support the people around me. In 2010, my husband Larry and I moved to Nipawin, where this wonderful community welcomed us with open arms. With some careful thought and planning, I opened a Q-Cut hair design here in town. Working independently has allowed me to form close, lasting relationships with my clients, many who I now consider my extended family. Nipawin's natural beauty, from its incredible outdoor spaces to its strong community spirit, inspired me to give back even more. I then joined the Rotary Club, became involved with the Evergreen Golf Club. I chaired the Ladies Pines Golf Tournament for several years and volunteered with the local Legion, joined the Curling Club, and the Nipawin and District Citizens on Patrol. Every experience showed me how to connect we are and how much we can accomplish when we work together. In 2016, I had the honor of being elected to Nipawin's Council, where I served until 2020. During that time, I chaired the Protective Services Committee and served 1 year as Deputy Mayor. This role taught me so much about municipal governance, from studying policies and procedures to gaining deeper understanding of how our tax dollars are allocated and how large budgets impact our community. I took this role very seriously and completed my municipal leadership development program and attended multiple SUMA conventions to absorb as much knowledge as I could. Through this experience, I learned the importance of teamwork, clear communication, and transparency, which are values I intend to bring to my role as your mayor. As your mayor, my top priority will be ensuring the safety and well-being of all residents. Public safety is more than a talking point. It's a commitment to make sure every resident feels safe and secure in our community. I will work closely with our local law enforcement to strengthen our crime prevention and response efforts. However, I believe public safety extends beyond policing. We need to address the root causes of our crime by expanding mental health and addiction services, as these issues are closely linked with crime and homelessness. By forming strong partnerships with neighboring communities, advocating for additional funding, and securing resources, we can create a safer and more supportive environment for everyone. Supporting our seniors is another key factor for me. Our senior residents have built the foundation of this community, and it's our responsibility to ensure that they have the support that they need. This includes improving accessible transportation options, expanding affordable housing, and continuing to pursue assisted living facility. I'm committing to make sure that our seniors stay connected and active through better access to essential services and recreation opportunities. Seniors bring invaluable experience, wisdom, and perspective to Nipawin, and supporting them will benefit our community as a whole. Another factor I will be fostering collaborative and inclusive in my community. My years of experience in business and municipal government have shown me open, honest communication is essential. As your mayor, I will prioritize listening to each of you residents, business owners, community organizations. I believe that every voice matters, and together we can create solutions that benefit all of us. Nipawin's future depends on our collaborative efforts, and I'm committed to transparent and open dialogue to make sure that we make informed, community-centered decisions. Lastly, I want to see Nipawin to grow and thrive. This means supporting our local businesses, creating opportunities for our youth, attracting new residents who will enrich our community. Growth doesn't mean losing the values that make Nipawin special. It means expanding on them. I believe by working together, we can shape Nipawin's future in a way that honors our heritage and builds in our strength. Thank you for considering me as your next mayor. I'm eager to serve Nipawin and work with each of you to create a town where we can all strive. Let's build a brighter future for Nipawin together.
Thank you, Gary. And lastly, we have Marlon.
Thank you, Ben, and thank you to the Chamber of Commerce, the Apostolic Church, and the Storm for broadcasting this. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your current mayor, Marlon Zacharias, or as most of you may know me, the Vacuum Guy. 1 year ago, Nipawin had an opportunity and a choice. The opportunity was to rebuild and move forward, and the choice was, who do you trust to be a leader on council? On October 18th last year, I was trusted to be that leader, and for that, I am truly grateful. Since moving to Nipawin 9 years ago, I have always worked to be a positive partner in this community, my home. From volunteering with groups like the Nipawin and District Chamber of Commerce and the Nipawin Regional Health Foundation, to just sharing some of my experiences fishing, hunting, and snowmobiling with the people who haven't had a chance to come experience it for themselves. I've always strived to be a positive change in Nipawin. As mayor, I was and will continue to be a positive leader around the council table. Since my election last year, I have worked hard to earn the trust of you, the community, administration, and the council itself. I was able to do this by meeting targets that I set personally for myself and some targets I campaigned on. Relationships with surrounding municipal partners are stronger, and we're working together better than ever. All you need to do is look at the Nipawin heliport to see some of the great work that can be done when we work together. Along with rebuilding external relationships, I fostered a solid working relationship with our administration team. This can be seen when you look at all the great work that they accomplished over the past year. All the administration and the staff in each department do deserve a pat on the back. Last year, I presented a vision for Nipawin, a plan for growth. And in that year, we've begun working to bring that vision to life. I want to continue along this path, creating a Nipawin that not only makes you, the people, proud, but also shows everyone else why Nipawin is a place we all choose to call home. What comes next in a plan for growth for Nipawin? Earlier this year, we created the official community plan to provide targets and ways to identify opportunities for our community. I will continue to advocate for growth by using this guiding document with the help of our administration. I will promote to preserve financial stability and accountability while we move forward with the OCP. Moving forward with any plan requires the highest levels of communication, and I want to continue developing relationships with partners and improving communication strategies with everyone, because great communication is paramount to our success. And having a plan means nothing if we cannot fund it. In the last year, we've been able to maintain fiscal responsibility to the community while expanding our infrastructure. We need to plan financially for this year and the next, but also for years into the future. Speaking of fiscal responsibility, I want to commend administration for working so hard this year to save you money. Through grant applications, unique thinking, and simple phone calls, they have saved our community hundreds of thousands of dollars on various projects. When our administration team is valued, they do work harder for all of us. And planning for growth will not matter if we cannot provide a safe, welcoming community for those who call Nipawin home, and those who want to join us here as well. Criminal activity here is the #1 thing on everyone's mind, including mine. This year, 20 buildings have been sealed and 6 houses have been demolished. We are removing locations that foster criminal activity and pose a hazard to our community. I will continue to work closely with our RCMP organizations like SCAN and Citizens on Patrol. And in addition, we'll take a strong stance with landlords to not allow criminal activity within their rentals. I am committed to improving safety by pushing back against criminal activity. I'm your mayor, Marlon Zacharias, the vacuum guy, and I have the next steps in our plan for growth.
Thank you. So we'll proceed with our question period now. If anybody has any questions, please, like I said, write them down and Yuri will come collect them from you. If anybody is really passionate and would like to speak themselves and ask the question themselves, I would be happy to allow you my seat and my microphone to do so. Just approach and in between questions, and I will allow you to do that. But I ask you to refrain from any strong language, as you never know who might be listening. So I think everybody has crime on their minds. And the first question that I'm going to present to our candidates, we'll start with you, Carrie, is in broad strokes, what do you intend to do about crime?
Well, I wholeheartedly believe that addiction and mental health are the contributing factor to crime and homelessness. So I would like to lobby our provincial government for more funding to fund independent rescue rehabs to go, or rehabilitation centers to go along with the government-funded ones. I've done a lot of research on addiction, and the longer the program, it seems to be the more success that follows with it. So I would definitely like to lobby the provincial government for more funding to support longer rehabilitation programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Marlon.
Can you just repeat it one more time?
One moment. The question is, in broad strokes, what do you intend to do about crime?
Well, I do agree with Carrie. Mental health is going to definitely be a big part of any plan moving forward, no matter what we decide that we have to do. And definitely advocating our provincial governments and our federal governments is where the funding is going to have to come from for those situations. Beyond that, we're definitely going to continue to work with the RCMP within Nipawin to help when we do have some issues. The other thing I want to definitely work on is advocating with our governments for the judicial system as well, so that we don't see as many people committing crimes over and over again. We hear them from the RCMP that they're picking up the same people 2 and 3 times a week sometimes. So we definitely need to look at our judicial system provincially as well. So those 2 things, advocate to the governments.
Thank you. And Brian.
Okay, I agree with both of the candidates up here. Also, we definitely have to work with the RCMP very closely in getting our justice system redone. Like the mayor just said here, is that they barely get the people into the jail and they're out on the street already, and the paperwork's not even completed yet. So I believe that we have to get our justice system overhauled first of all, and I think that's going to have to be with the federal government.
Thank you. So the next question I have is, do you feel that a homeless shelter would ease any of the community's problems? And we'll start with Marlon.
Thank you. I've thought a lot, and I've had a few conversations regarding specifics on a homeless shelter. The biggest issue I see in bringing something like that to Nipawin is having the full supports it would take to actually operate something like that, and who would be in charge of running it. The town isn't going to be the people that would operate something like that. It would have to be government run or through a private organization. So I think there's potential there. I do think there are other opportunities that might work as well to help with that, and that just surrounds general housing and bringing in some more housing for lower incomes in terms of like tiny homes and humble homes and things like that, where maybe a homeless shelter isn't necessarily the answer. Then partnerships with maybe some of the surrounding communities where they have a homeless shelter already, maybe we can work together with them to partner that way. But I don't think it would work well in Nipawin at our level of support that we have today.
Thank you. Brian, your thoughts?
Excuse me. Homeless shelter in Nipawin, I'm not quite sure if that would work. It's very possible, but I don't think the municipality should be in the renting homes and stuff along that lines into that area. I believe that should be up to developer. So I think we can work closely with some developers, bringing in, building some homes, bringing in some other homes, and staying out of the retail business of selling and renting homes.
Thank you. And Carrie?
So I believe that a homeless shelter would be a short-term solution. I think the root of the problem still is what's causing the homelessness. We need to attack the problem of what's causing the homelessness. Are you homeless because you're low income? Then we need to have more low income affordable housing. I just think a homeless shelter is a very short-term option, and to build something like that or support something like that for such a short term doesn't make sense for a municipality. I think we have to address why. We have to find the root cause of homelessness. You're homeless for reasons. There's got to be a reason, so we need to get to the root problem of that. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have a question here that says, if elected, do you have a plan to deal with the quote-unquote couch surfers? And Brian.
Well, it's a very difficult one to do, because when I was fire chief in town, they would always say that there's 4 people in that house, and that's basically what you have to take them is at their word, unless you can get in there and do an inspection of the place. But with local fire department chief and fire department and also the bylaw enforcement, I believe that we could do some harder work on that area.
Thank you. And Carrie? If elected, do you have a plan to deal with couch surfers?
So that kind of, I guess, would correlate with homelessness. So I think that what we need to do is we need to have some kind of regulations with our landlords that there can only be so many people in a house. I think we need to have some rules put in place that's enforced. And again, they're couch surfing, so where did they come from? And why are they there? We need to find out the reasons why people are couch surfing or on the streets or living 15 people in a house. I mean, you were born somewhere and you had a home somewhere and you came from somewhere, so we need to figure out why they're not at the homes that they have and why they're in our community and why they're couch surfing. And I think it all goes back to mental health and addiction. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, Marlon.
Yeah, I think that was definitely a very similar question to what we just answered around the homelessness, is being able to deal with finding other opportunities for them to have homes rather than just bouncing from house to house or friend to friend. They are struggling to find a permanent home. We need to find out why as well. I agree. So
thank you. So a question I have here is, how do you intend to address the apparent shortfall in police presence in the community? Carrie.
Well, our RCMP, I heard the staff sergeant say the other night at the council meeting that we have one of the very few detachments that are fully staffed, so that's a really good thing. Our previous staff sergeant spoke to the fact that their staff themselves are staggering their hours so that they're visible at all hours of the night. I don't think it's realistic for a town of our size to get more police. We'd have to grow to a city, and we really don't want that, because I remember when I was on council, we had an RCMP presentation, and they told us if we became a small city, we would get exactly the same services we have now for a cost, and I believe it was an extra $1.1 million, but I could be wrong. I think that there's just too much crime and not enough police officers in the province. I think their hands are tied federally, like there just isn't enough of them to deal with all the crime in the town. Thank you.
Thank you. And Marlon.
Thank you. Like Carrie said, we had a presentation at our most recent council meeting where we are confirmed as being fully staffed right now, and it is never enough, especially when you are a victim. I understand that. One thing that I do slightly disagree with is the potential to become a city. Costs definitely go up, but when you become a city, it's typically because you have more people, you have more businesses than where we are today. Obviously, being a city today isn't going to allow us to pay for that, but being a city, if we have 2,000 more people and 250 more businesses, would make it a little more manageable. And becoming a city allows the opportunity to have an additional set of officers, up to 24 from the 14 that we have today. And that would be very substantial, is having another 10 officers patrolling in our area. So I do think there is some potential there. We do work with the RCMP. They do stagger their hours. They do work very hard to be out on the streets and be visible. So we'll just continue to support them at the level they're at, and again, petition the governments to increase and improve things for us here.
Thank you. And Brian.
Yeah, I agree. Our RCMP are working extremely hard. I see them out anytime, day and night. A lot of times, get up and go to the washroom and you take a look outside, you'll see an RCMP vehicle going by. So they're out there. They are visible, but there's just not enough of them. And that's all over Canada, not just Nipawin. So I guess we just have to kind of be patient and lobby the government for more funding for RCMP or city police.
Thank you. So I have a question from the floor here. Truth and reconciliation. So the question is, have local reserves been invited to help us address problems? I think a better way to ask that would be, would you be willing to work with local reserves to help address problems? And what do you think that would look like? Marlon?
Thank you, Ben. So as I said in my opening speech, I've been working very hard over the past year diligently to create relationships and partnerships with our surrounding municipalities and with the reserves as well. And there is always the opportunity to work together. Right now, it's a matter of building that relationship and getting to the point where us as a council and themselves as council can sit down at the table and really have some good, hard conversations and try to come up with some meaningful ideas and plans on how we can work together to help them out and they can help us out. So it's definitely something we're looking at. It's just been a slow process over the last year. Building relationships takes time.
Thank you. Brian.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yes, I believe that we all should be working very closely with other municipalities, including the reserves, building those stronger relationships and getting involved with each other.
Thank you. And Carrie.
I'm not sure where the town stands with the First Nations as of now, but when I was on council, we met constantly with Red Earth and Cumberland House with their chiefs and councils, and we worked on all kinds of problem solving. We had very good relationships with them. on my 4 years on council, so I'm definitely in favor of rebuilding that relationship if it isn't there anymore. We had good dialogue, lots of good conversations, and we worked together very well. Thank you.
Thank you. So there is another question here. They ask, what is your definition of homelessness? I'm sorry, I lost who goes next here. It's Brian.
Thank you. Homelessness, that's a good one. Everybody was born somewhere and lived someplace before they came into Nipawin. So I think we'd have to find out where the residents were from and find out why they are not ready to go back to their municipality or area to live and why they wanted to be in Nipawin.
Thank you. Carrie. The question is simply, what is your definition of homelessness?
Well, my definition of homelessness would be that you didn't have a permanent place to live with a permanent roof over your head. I don't define couch surfing as homelessness. I think a lot of people who are couch surfing and are homeless have made bad decisions. Not all, but some have, and they've been asked to leave where their homes are. And many are provided homes where they've come from, and they've chosen to make different decisions, whether that be drugs or alcohol or whatever it might be. But I agree with Brian that we must find out where the citizens came from. If they're in our community and they're homeless and they're our citizens, then that's our responsibility. But a lot of our homeless people didn't come from here. They came from other places, and I think we need to address why they came here and chose to be homeless. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, Marlon.
I agree. The definition of homelessness is somebody who doesn't have a permanent home, a permanent address, a place that they can go to every night and feel safe and protected from the elements and get rested and keep their belongings to themselves. And I think it is going to be a big job to work on how we can take that definition and work with it to find ways that are meaningful to help these people.
Thank you. So there are rumors that there are kind of tent cities starting to appear around the town here. And as winter approaches, those could become serious issues with fires and potential safety problems. What would be your approach to addressing that kind of situation? Carrie?
Thanks. I have seen it. It's not a rumor. There are tent cities popping up around our town. And again, it seems rhetorical to me. We need to find out why they're homeless, where they came from. Of course, we have to have interventions to make sure that they don't freeze to death in the winter and they have a safe place to be where they're warm and cared for. But again, we have to address, what issues got them to our town to be sleeping in a tent on the riverbank with winter approaching. Thank you.
Thank you. Marlon? It is no secret. There have been tent cities, and one thing that we have tried to do over the past, and it's a little easier in the summer, because fires and safety concerns are an issue. We have taken a bit of a stance where we don't allow them to set up and become an area where criminal activity can happen or have safety concerns with fires especially. We've had some pretty close calls with some of these places, and we don't want to see that become a worse issue where somebody could potentially die. With the winter coming, it's going to be a lot more difficult to take away a shelter from somebody who's just trying to stay warm. So we have entered into some very preliminary discussions with some organizations at the council level on how we can try to offer some opportunities to keep people warm so that we don't have an unfortunate incident where somebody freezes to death on our streets. Nobody deserves that, no matter what kind of walk of life you come from. And we do want to find a way to at least work on helping people in their absolute worst case scenario.
Thank you. And Brian.
Thank you. I agree that there's the 10 pop-ups are coming up and all over the place again. I know when I was fire chief, we tried to ban them as quickly as possible to make sure that there was nothing up there that people would get hurt or have a fire on there. And I know with local enforcement, with the RCMP, fire, and bylaw enforcement, we can try to keep working on that problem and hopefully get that problem cured.
Thank you. I have one more question from the floor here. Would it be possible to hire a security company to put cameras around the town in the areas, in the spots where most crimes are committed? Do you think that there is that a feasible thing? And if so, what are your thoughts? Marlon.
Well, over the past few years, I think a lot of people have taken their personal safety and everything in their home to another level, and there are a lot more cameras in this community than I ever thought there ever would be. So adding cameras through a private security company, I'm not sure how much of a difference it would make, because a lot of times, unfortunately, with a hood pulled over your head, it's hard to identify who these people are. And most of the time, the RCMP, they do have a very good idea who a lot of the criminals and the ne'er-do-wells are committing crimes and sneaking around and doing things at night. It's something that could be looked at if there was a little more discussion, but beyond that right now, I'm not sure. I'd probably be more a fan of switching some of our lighting over in the streets, actually, to brighten it up. Our new LEDs that we're seeing installed by Sask Power, unfortunately, do not project the light out onto the streets well enough. I learned that when I was out door knocking this fall.
Brian.
We did look at a security companies years ago when I was fire chief, and the cost was just outrageous for the few hours that we wanted them, and they would have to come in from Saskatoon or Regina because there's nothing in our immediate area. So the cost of that just be outrageous, but I do believe working closely with the RCMP, calling in the crimes, getting that phone ringing, getting the information to the RCMP, that would be our best bet for now.
Thank you. Absolutely. So the question was, would it be possible to hire a security company to put cameras around town in the spots where most crimes are committed?
So I guess my first thought would be, what area would that be? Because the crime is all over the place. I don't think we have a hot spot. I think there's crime everywhere. I have cameras, my neighbors have cameras, the neighbors have cameras, everybody has cameras. And the reality is, there was guys who went into one of the condos downtown. They took a bike, they took a car, they had cameras, they have a picture. Nothing was done. And even if the police arrest them, and I feel so sorry for our RCMP, they work so hard. They take them to the court, and the court slaps their hands, and back on the street they go. So I think it would be a waste of our money. We'd have to put a camera in every corner of this town, because I don't think we have a hot spot for crime. I think it's everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. So we have spent quite a bit of time on crime. I do have two more questions that have come from the floor on crime, and then I think we should pivot to another topic. The first question that I have, would be, would you consider training and hiring special constables to work with the RCMP? Carrie.
So I wouldn't be opposed to it. I've looked and I've done lots of research on community safety officers as well. The truth is I think the people that are on the streets doing crimes, they don't care if they're being watched. They just don't care. They have no fear. They know they'll be arrested. They know within 3 or 4 days they'll be on the street. Well, I wouldn't be opposed to training constables or special constables to work with our RCMP or community safety officers or working with the citizens on patrol. But the reality is these people don't have fear because they know that the justice system is going to let them go. So I would be in favor of it, but I'm just not certain how effective it would be. Thank you.
Thank you. And Marlon?
It has definitely been a discussion in the past, and it's an expensive thing to move forward on, and yeah, it's going to be tough to really measure the amount of progress you can make by having a community safety officer. Right now, the way we're working right now, what I would probably recommend is work with the RCMP at the levels we can, work with our citizens on patrol, help them with some funding and some grant money so that they can operate effectively, and then advocate against the judicial system to make it better so that when people commit a crime, they actually face some responsibility for what they're doing.
Thank you. And Brian?
When I was a fire chief and on the Protective Services Committee, we did check into it. The cost for one community safety officer and a vehicle and the training was just over $300,000 for 1 year. So that's a lot of money for capital for one officer. And I don't think one officer is going to help that much in the community. I'm not against hiring. I'm not against the training part. It's just that we need more manpower than one.
Thank you. Carrie? Oh, my apologies. So that was the end of that question. I'm sorry. So the last question I have here on crime. If we have more time at the end, we could pivot back if anybody has anything else that they want to add or ask. But this here, the question will go to Marlon first. Aside from lobbying provincial levels of government for funding and judicial changes, what are some specific municipal bylaws or policies that, as mayor, would be enacted, created, or emboldened in an effort to curb crime in our community?
Thank you. Now I guess it's time for the meat and potatoes. This is probably the question. So earlier in my introduction, I talked about us knocking down some derelict housing and closing up some housing to prevent squatting and drugs and other illegal activity from happening in those places. So we're definitely going to continue on that path of taking away buildings of opportunity. We're going to continue to support our bylaw and fire chief when it comes to these tent cities. Something else that's also being looked at by administration legally is the ability to create the potential for requiring some of our all of our landlords to carry a business license on their properties, which will allow us to perform inspections on those properties. That's really important for two reasons. The first one is it helps us check the properties, make sure they're livable for people, because we all deserve a good house to live in that isn't falling down around us. But also it will allow us the opportunity while we're there to make sure that there isn't some illegal activity happening on those properties. There's also some discussion that happened with the RCMP where they said we should reach out to the Attorney General to look at accountability and consequences for some more of the criminals. And beyond that, I think probably a stronger partnership with Citizens on Patrol would be pretty important to at least help work with the RCMP.
Thank you, Marlon. Brian?
Thank you. I do believe that we all have to take our part in this, getting everything rolling. It's going to be tough, and I mean tough, to change bylaws when you're walking into probably half possible of a new council, half a new council, and possible of a new mayor. So they've got some homework to do, first of all, so it's not going to happen overnight. There's going to be a lot of hard work involved, getting caught up on the reading of the bylaws and policies, and getting everything as current as possible.
And Carrie? Certainly. Aside from lobbying provincial levels of government for funding and judicial changes, what are some specific municipal bylaws or policies that, as mayor, would be enacted, created, or emboldened in an effort to curb crime in our community?
I think one of the biggest things we can do is we can look at licensing landlords, like Marlon said. And also there's a project in British Columbia that's been very successful. And what they do is they increase the property taxes, triple them. And then if you live in your home, you get a 2/3 reduction on your property taxes. And if you don't, then the taxes stay very high. So it's very undesirable for undesirable landlords to own properties because their taxes would be so extreme that they wouldn't want to buy these houses that are dilapidated and rent them to all these people. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so like I said, we're gonna pause on crime for a little bit here. We do actually have some more questions coming in on crime, but if we have time at the end, we'll pivot back. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about economic development. So the first question I have, which will be for Brian. Do you have any ideas how to attract new business to Nipawin?
Well, I think we have to get back to the old days of going to all the trade shows in the area, including Nipawin, Scarlet Rivers, the whole area, White Fox, and then also into the cities and down to North Dakota, South Dakota again, like they did in the past. When that happened, tourism came up, and then we also brought businesses into area as well at that time.
Thank you. And Carrie? Certainly. Do you have any ideas on how to attract new business to Nipawin?
So I do. I have lots of thoughts on how to attract new businesses to Nipawin, and the first one is to have a safe, welcoming community. And other than that, I think what we need to do is we need to have some incentives for new businesses to come to town, whether it's some tax incentives or, some, maybe if they want to buy, a commercial lot and build a building, some incentives, the same as we do with new house builds. Give them a 4-3-2-1 tax break or something like that. But again, I think that a nice, safe, clean community will draw people to want to do business here. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. And Marlon?
Thank you. So a big part of bringing in some businesses is having some tax policies in place, which we do have. We're looking at revamping them with our official community plan when it came out earlier this year. There's some opportunities to maybe change how they were done, and that might help attract some new businesses. Some other things that we've done is, over the past year, we did a $3.5 million infrastructure plan for Nipawin that involved some expansion on our south corridor, which is towards McDonald's and the co-op further south. And that's going to allow access to land that will make it a little bit better to attract these businesses by having the infrastructure in place now. There would be nothing worse than getting a contact from a large commercial or industrial company that wants to come to Nipawin and have to say, okay, it'll take us 2 or 3 years to put the infrastructure in place, and then we'll be ready for you. So part of our plan is to be ready now for the day that they call, not 2 years after. So that's a big part of it. Something else that we're working on, we worked very diligently this year. Unfortunately, it hasn't happened yet, but we're going to continue after the election, is we're looking at some boundary expansion. It hasn't happened in Nipawin for a lot of years, so we've been considering expanding Nipawin's town boundaries that will allow us more opportunity to bring in business and have access to land for them to be on.
Thank you. And Brian, your thoughts? Oh my goodness, I apologize. When I did the provincial forum last week, it was only 2 candidates. It was so much easier. Cycling through 3, it's okay. My apologies. So if you started, Brian, then Carrie, this question will be for you. We have strong competition in the Northeast in Tisdale and Melfort when it comes to attracting new business. What in your opinion makes Nipawin the best option?
Well, we have the best golf course, so we win. No. Okay. I think that we have a really wonderful community, and it's beautiful, and it's in the trees, and we do have the best golf course. But we have a really good community spirit. We have a good group of people who are really involved in different things, from, the local farmers market to like the little activities at the town square, and all the community groups that put on all the different things that we have. When we moved to Nipawin in 2010, I remember thinking, I think I was at Nipawin once. I drove through Love to get there. And the community is just very welcoming. I just think we're just a really friendly, welcoming community. And we have the best golf course. Thank you.
Thank you. Marlon.
Well, we're definitely in competition in the Northeast, and in the past, I've seen other businesses and residents going into those other communities, and I think it does fully come down to preparedness of those communities. They are land ready in some instances, they're infrastructure ready, and we aren't. So that's why it was so important for us this year to put together an infrastructure plan that would lay some groundwork for some short-term and some long-term growth going forward. And we have a great golf course, but our fish are better.
Thank you. And lastly, Brian.
Thank you. Nipawin's got a great area. We've got all kinds of sports that's happened here. We've got all kinds of recreation stuff to do during the winter months, ice fishing. I mean, it just goes on and on. Snowmobiling capital of Canada, probably. And we've got such a great area. All of our service clubs work hard in our community. They do all kinds of good projects for our area. So, I mean, we've got an excellent community, and we should all be very proud of it, and hopefully we can keep it building.
Thank you. Next question. How do we increase tourism when we have a fixed number of hotel rooms and campsites in town? Do you have any specific plans to incentivize hoteliers to operate here? And would you be interested in expanding the number of campsites as well? Marlon.
Thank you. In terms of campsites and everything, I don't think there aren't any campsites necessarily really operated by the town itself. I'd love to see expansion at the regional park. There's definitely still some land there. Over the last year, there has been some talk around a hotel, and a hotel study has been completed. It's not been presented in its full potential to the council yet, so we don't really have a lot to go on there. But the fact that we did the study is very important because it shows that there is some interest on the council side, and after that there will be some interest hopefully from the hoteliers side. So absolutely, I'd love to see some expansion there, because we hear it every day that people don't want to stay in Nipawin. They drive to the other communities, so let's definitely do better here and bring something new here.
And your thoughts, Brian?
Yes, I agree. If we get some new campsites out in the regional park or that area, or maybe towards Tobin Lake, that would be a big move for Nipawin. Also, if we have some camping grounds in the newer development areas south, where until there is some businesses out there, maybe we can look at that as a temporary. And also, if there's some talk about hotels in Nipawin or the Nipawin area, that would be a bonus for Nipawin if we could get them coming here.
Thank you. And Carrie?
I don't have a lot to add to that, but we definitely do need a new hotel, and I'm happy to hear that there's a study and that we may get one. As far as campsites go, I didn't realize that there was a shortage. I thought we had lots of campsites in our area between the two campsites at Tobin Lake and the independent ones at Carroll's Cove and Prudence Point and the regional park. I just thought that the area had a lot of campsites, so it surprises me to hear that we have a shortage. But I'd be totally willing to hear the options to expand for sure at the regional park. But yeah, we definitely need a new hotel. Thank you.
Thank you. So before we head to break, I'm going to ask one more question here, a little lighter question. And this particular question will go to Brian first. What would you like to see Nipawin do in the future to provide better recreational services for its residents?
Well, I think first of all, we should be, like I said before, going out to the trade shows in the area and promoting Nipawin, and then get some new business coming into town where we could create some new tax dollars that would provide better recreation facilities for our community. We have a beautiful pool. The arenas have been worked on and fixed up nicely, but you just can't stop there. We've got a couple outdoor rinks that need some TLC. So, I mean, it's just constantly going. So, thank you.
Thank you, Brian. And Carrie? Yeah, absolutely. What would you like to see Nipawin do in the future to provide better recreational services for its residents?
I think that we need some work at our arena. I get told 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day that it's very, very cold in there. We have a junior hockey team, so I think that we need to look at our very old Centennial Arena and do some work there. We do have a beautiful pool. I would actually like to see a spray park in town. I would like to see a spray park be built in town. I'm not sure where. I kind of thought the Lions Park was a good spot, but I guess not. I think that another thing I'd like to see to improve our recreation is our playgrounds have better lighting. I think that the playgrounds don't have enough light in the evenings, but definitely I think a spray park would be a nice thing for the community to have. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. And Marlon.
Yeah, I do agree. I've definitely heard it a few times at the Hawks games as well, that our arena could use some updating. So expanding on that would be definitely important to bring that building kind of up to date and make some expansions there. Spray park sounds like a pretty fantastic idea. I don't have young children anymore. Something I wanted to do when I moved here, we contemplated redoing the mini golf course. So anything we can do to expand on the few things that we do have, make sure our buildings are kept up to date is going to be crucial as well. We had planned to have a multi-sport court done this year. Unfortunately, timing, we didn't quite get there, but that should be operational for next year as well. I'd like to see some stuff maybe geared around the river a little bit more too. Vegas has a zip line that goes all the way down one of the main streets. I've never been there, but it'd be interesting to see a zip line across the river or something like that. It'd be pretty exciting change to see. So,
Thank you, Marlon. Okay, like I said, we're going to take a 10-minute break here. We'd love to get some more questions from the audience and more questions from online. Some of the topics that we haven't addressed yet that you may have some thoughts on would be taxes, the situation in town as far as healthcare and medical professional shortages, just to give you some ideas of questions that you might want to ask. But grab you guys grab yourselves a coffee, stretch your legs, and we'll come back in about 10 minutes. gentlemen, we'll be continuing our program momentarily. If I can have everybody take their seats. Welcome back, everybody. So once again, I just want to thank the Nipawin District Chamber of Commerce for organizing this event. I want to thank our candidates for attending. I'd like to thank Jordan and Chantel and the Apostolic Church for hosting the event for us. I want to thank Norm Rudock and CJNE, The Storm, for broadcasting for us. And I want to thank everybody that's watching at home, listening at home, or in attendance tonight for attending this extremely important event to our community.
And we want to thank Ben and the Chamber for all the questions and keeping us organized.
As best I can. So we're going to start off for a question for Carrie here, or it's for everybody, but we'll start with Carrie. I think this is a fantastic question. I would like all the candidates to look out at the people in attendance this evening, mostly white hair. What would be your plans to improve the life of seniors in this municipality? Thank you for your consideration.
That is a great question. So I'm not going to talk about safety. What I would like to see the Town of Nipawin undertake is a program that's in Yorkton. It's called Sign, and what it is the municipality gets a car donated, and then we train local volunteers. They have to be bonded, have criminal record checks, and so on and so forth. And what it is it's like a taxi, but it's more. And so for probably, I figured it out roughly, it should be $5 each way. So for $10 round trip, they would accompany you to your groceries, to your doctors, and then when you get home, they take your groceries in your house, and if you're unable to put them in the cupboards, they put them away for you. So it's more than a taxi, but less than the handy van. It's for seniors who are still mobile, you know, who just don't want to go it alone. I would really like to see that service looked at in Nipawin, and I think that if I was elected, that's something I would definitely bring to the table, because we do have a lot of aging people who could just use that little bit of assistance with their daily activities, and even just the company. You stay with them, you visit with them, just some companionship as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Marlon.
Thank you. You mentioned the handy van, Carrie, and I believe we are looking at trying to find ways to expand our ridership on that service that we already offer. So that will make it a little bit easier for some of our seniors to get around in our community. Something else that's going to make it a lot easier, and I spoke with a lady just over the weekend, and I've heard it a few other times prior to that, is working on the accessibility for our seniors who use mobility scooters and things like that, and adding some more ramps on our sidewalks. There's a lot of places where you just can't get to and get up on the sidewalks. You're out on the streets with mobility scooters, so that's a pretty big danger. And some of our sidewalks where people are riding them as well, closer to the high school, are tilted or sloped a little bit, and it causes some issues in terms of rollovers as well. So accessibility on the sidewalks is definitely something we're going to continue working on. I know we've done a little bit already this year, and we'll continue moving on that into the future. Something else that I have definitely spoke with people is just the support in general. I know we can't do it on our own as a community, as a council, but support and creating a bit of an atmosphere and advocating to bring in some care home support for our elderly population and affordable living that way as well. So something we definitely are advocating to work on with the community.
Thank you, Marlon. And Brian.
Thank you. One of the great things about Nipawin is that they get the snow out of the way real quick in the winter months, and we just have to get everybody working together, working on the sidewalks for the seniors, that they are able to get out there for their safety. And also, a couple other little things there is, like Marlon just mentioned, the sidewalks are in bad need and need some drastic repair everywhere throughout the town. So with that, that might not be able to be handled all at one season. Maybe we'll have to contract that out and have a contractor do that to get some sidewalks repaired and worked on that way. So thank you.
Thank you, Brian. So I had asked a question earlier about hotels and campsites, and we've been informed that camping at the regional park was down 66% this summer. So tourism and fishing numbers used to be much, much higher in Nipawin. What is your plan to enrich tourism again to the area? Marlon.
So this was something that is very near and dear to me. I love the tourism in Nipawin, and that was a big part of what drew me here. And I think one of the biggest ways we can improve in tourism is going back to how we used to do it years ago, and attending trade shows, not just within the province and advocating within our province. A lot of people do know where Tobin Lake is, but looking at bringing in some outside dollars. We used to go a lot into the States and other provinces, Alberta, Manitoba, Ontario, and it doesn't always have to come at a heavy expense to the town. We've got a lot of great tourism businesses here that go to these shows already, so we could create some partnerships where we work together with them and have them advocating for us as well. So that's a big part of what I would like to see happen in tourism, sports and leisure shows and things like that. That would be the quickest way to get it out. We also have made some big changes on social media, so that's definitely helping over the last year as well. I know getting some videos out and showcasing a lot of the events that happen here, whether it's the fishing tournaments in the summer, snowmobiling in the winter, using our social media expertise now that we have to really promote Nipawin on a global scale that way as well.
Thank you. And Brian.
Well, I definitely agree with the tourism part. Getting out to the trade shows in our areas, and not just the Nipawin area, but all over the place, promoting Nipawin. And it's got so much to offer, from hiking to cross-country cross-country skiing, snowmobiling. I mean, there's just so much here. And we're getting very lax at that for the last few years, so we definitely have to pull up our socks and get back to work.
Thank you.
So I'd have to agree with both of them. I think the problems right now we're facing are more financial. Since COVID, things have got so expensive. Gas is expensive, food is expensive, and I think people are just cutting back. But I definitely think marketing our campgrounds and our fishing and, of course, our golfing. And I never get to catch a fish, Marlon, but, you know, we have beautiful Tobin Lake. I just think it's a sign of the times, and I know I spent the weekend at the craft show this weekend, and for the first time since COVID, I had a really, really good craft sale, and people are starting to spend money again. So I think it's just going to be a matter of time till we recover just from the economic crunch that the COVID pandemic brought. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question I have is in regards to healthcare. Do you believe there's anything the town can do to recruit and retain more doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals? Is there any way to lengthen the stay of their contracts? Brian?
Well, I think we have to work very closely with the Saskatchewan Health Authority to see what we can do to bring new blood into Nipawin to help us out in that area. just recruiting doctors for a year or two just isn't panning out, and we know that. We've seen it, and we definitely need the help. But I don't think we're going to be able to rob from Melfort or Tisdale or other places like that. We're going to have to leave the province and probably Canada to bring folks in from other areas.
Thank you. And Marlon? My apologies. Yes, Carrie. Yes. Good thing you're on task.
I think that it's going to be very difficult. We have a doctor shortage, I think, nationwide. But I think one of the best things that we can do to recruit and get doctors to stay here is train our own in this country. I think that we should be lobbying our governments to promote more medical students from this country to be trained as doctors, and there'd be a better opportunity for them to stay. Now, having said that, I think we need some incentives, to get them to stay. Usually it's 3 to 5 years, and then they move along to a bigger city or a warmer province like British Columbia. But I do feel that if we trained more Canadian doctors, we would have better success keeping them here. Thank you.
Thank you. And now Marlon.
Yeah, so we're working with our doctor shortage. It's something that we're not just seeing here. It is definitely across the province and across the country. So in terms of what we can do as a town, in terms of offering some incentives, they've tried a few things in the past. Unfortunately, they haven't worked long term, and it's unfortunate. We do have so much great things to offer these doctors when they come here. We've been lucky a few times, so hopefully we'll be able to continue working with the provincial government and lobbying. Again, it's kind of an unfortunate thing when you hear that here at the forum is so many of these things are out of the control of the municipality here itself. One thing that they are doing, I know it's not a doctor, but in terms of nursing and stuff, hopefully we can work with our Suncrest College and bring some training programs here to help on the nursing side of things too, where we can get people to stick around in Nipawin a little longer on that side.
Thank you. My next question here says, if elected, what will you do to encourage a new sustainable industry in Nipawin? And do you have any ideas what that might be? Carrie.
A new sustainable industry, and what would it be? I'm not really sure. Like Marlon touched on earlier, having the infrastructure in place would definitely help. I don't know what the industry is that we would attract. I know that we used to have CP Rail here, and they've shut down operations in Nipawin, which was very sad. But we desperately need an industry here to create more jobs. I'm just not sure what it would be. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Marlon.
Yeah, this does fall back on our recent expansion in our with the $3.5 million infrastructure project that we started this year and will hopefully finish next year, making sure we're ready for those industries. In terms of finding an industry, that's the most difficult part. And I think one way we could look at that is find industries that are going to work well with the industries we already have here. So I'll just pick a quick example. North Fringe, they build parts and they ship them all over the world. Well, why don't we look at those clients that North Fringe has and find the next part that their customers need and try to bring them here. It would be great to maybe look at some lumber opportunities. We're seeing an expansion at the mill in Carrot River, so maybe we can find some partner organizations that can work with them as well. Another big thing would be to look at finding ways to, because the biggest problem we have here is getting our products shipped out with our rail lines and things like that. So I think it's going to be really important to look at some international trade that could hopefully down the road utilize the northern trade route in Manitoba at Churchill. So anybody that's globally shipping, maybe we can look at finding ways to work on that. So.
Thank you. And Brian.
Well, definitely we do need that in our area, but it's a tough one because we're paying freight to get things here, we're paying freight to leave, so we're really beat on that. But I think as we develop our area with some infrastructure in place and start pounding the pavement again with the trade shows, maybe that might create some interest in bringing some industry back to our area.
Thank you. Certainly.
Nipawin area is prime bee honey country. Make the best honey in the world. You know, there's an industry that could be packaged and sent out from Nipawin, Saskatchewan. Things like that could be something to look into.
So I'll just repeat that question for our listeners and our viewers. The gentleman from the floor suggested that honey might be an option, that we have some of the best honey in the world. What do you as candidates feel about that as a potential industry? Marlon?
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Like, let's find some of the things that we already have in our area and find ways to grow on it and perform value added with those products. So you take your honey, you pasteurize it and ship it out all over the world. Let's find something that works with the lumber industry, find something that works with agriculture. It's not just about canola. I know there's a few other crops we grow around here as well. So let's find those value added industries and try to bring them to Nipawin.
Thank you. Brian, your thoughts?
I agree. Working with Mr. Farmer in our local areas, we can promote him, and they would be able to promote us with their organizations as well. And I think both hand in hand, they make a very strong community and very good products for us to be proud of.
Thank you. Carrie?
I think that's a really great suggestion. My understanding is a lot of our local honey producers do package and ship their own honey away. Unless I'm misunderstanding, I understand that many of the producers in this area do. I mean, there certainly is something more. Maybe we could expand on that, but I've always understood that many of them pasteurize and ship their honey internationally now. That's what I thought. Yeah, in big barrels, in small packages to different stores. I guess that's something to look at. But then, with all the honey producers, they'd all have to get together, I would imagine. Otherwise we'd have to promote a business to compete with all of our local honey producers, and I think that's a terrible idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Excuse me, can I get you to use this here?
But we don't know what kind of industry's coming here. How do we know this infrastructure is just not pipes in the ground that are never going to be used?
Carrie, your thoughts?
Well, I think it's good to be progressive, but I actually would agree with you. Spending $3.5 million on an industry that we hope might come here is a little bit a reach, I think, but I mean, who knows, maybe it'll turn out and it'll work out for the best. I have to agree with Marlon, though, if an industry does come and we're not ready, and we have to say no, because that's happened multiple times, and like he spoke on earlier, like we're landlocked, we have nowhere to go unless we extend our boundaries. I mean, unless there's an idea of what's coming, I'm not sure I would have made that decision. Thanks, Ray.
Marlon?
Thank you, Ray. So, yeah, it was definitely looked at and focused upon with our official community plan as well, that being prepared now is a lot different than it might have been 10 or 15 years ago, where you were able to create a relationship with an industry that was looking to come here, and you had time to get that infrastructure in the ground before they were even ready. Now a lot of these businesses and infrastructure, industrial companies are wanting to, they're going to come to the table and they want to be ready to go a lot quicker, and they're expecting the communities that they're expanding into to be ready almost immediately after these conversations. So we took a opportunity, and yeah, it's definitely a risk. We've seen some expansion happening along the south side, and the infrastructure is needed before we can do any extra expansion, because we are running very close to capacity on that side already in terms of the sewer loop that we put in or will be putting in. So I'm strongly in favor of planning it and then definitely going out and advocating and bringing in that business.
Brian?
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in the expansion of that as well. I believe we have everything in place. People will come to us, and we have to be ready for that. Thank you.
Certainly. Just one moment. Jordan will bring you a mic.
Now I forgot the question.
Before you proceed, I actually skipped Brian's turn. I realized it should have been your turn last time. Oh, okay. So we'll start with you this time.
Well, I have a question about the south corner. Who is it servicing now? Is it going to result in better services for the businesses that are there? Or are you thinking of a certain industry in particular that has approached the town?
Brian.
Okay, I'm not thinking any particular business out there. I'm just thinking in general, everybody. And I don't know if there's any particular business that has approached the town on that part yet or not. So I can't answer all your questions, Joyce. Thanks.
And Carrie.
I'm kind of with Brian. I don't have any ideas what the discussion was when they made the decisions. And I'm not saying it was the wrong decision. I just don't know what the discussion was around the table, if there was an industry interested. So I mean, I can't answer. But thanks, Joyce.
And Marlon.
Thank you, Joyce. I understand that question was definitely geared towards the answer I just gave. So the current infrastructure that is in the ground on the south corridor is servicing the businesses that are along the highway to the south. Unfortunately, like I said, we are running very, very close to capacity. So this service is being put in for future developments and future businesses that are coming in. As for something in particular, there is nothing in the works yet. It's all going to be part of our official community plan, again, moving forward to start looking for business opportunities and industrial opportunities to come here, and then they will be able to take advantage of that expansion.
Okay. So this next question will be, we have another question from the floor. Fabulous.
Right here.
Along the lines with, you're saying putting infrastructure in and looking for businesses to come into town, you're not going to get these larger companies to come in here. They don't go to trade shows to look for a place to build. It would be in your best interest to set up a committee to start looking and dealing with these companies. And a lot with your infrastructure, even with the infrastructure that you're going to put in place, may not even come close to what this company needs. So why spend that money, extra money, just to have to tear it up in an area, to suit their needs? That's something that can then be discussed if you get this company to come into town.
So Marlon, that question is kind of directed at you. I'll allow you to answer it, and then Carrie, you can respond, and Brian, you can add your thoughts as well.
Thank you for the question. So part of that expansion, well, we talk about industrial stuff, and I think when we're saying in industry itself, we're thinking pretty large scale, Bungie and stuff like that. So if there's additional requirements, that it'll still be able to tie into that specific trunk line that we're putting in. It's a pretty massive expansion that we're going to be putting in. And in terms of striking a committee to be able to come up with ideas and approach companies, that's absolutely something I would be in favor of. That's why I mentioned, working with companies like North Fringe or like Bungie and finding some similar businesses or something that can tie in and partner with them where they work together to create the value-added products that may be able to ship out together or things like that. I definitely think in terms of this first bit of infrastructure we're putting in this year, there's probably going to be even more expansion down the road that would, when industry starts looking, that we might even add some other larger infrastructure down the road. But this level of infrastructure is going to really handle a lot of what's along the highway in the next few years, hopefully.
Thank you, Marlon. Carrie, do you have any thoughts? No? Brian?
No, thank you. I don't really have any thoughts on that. Just that let's do it right the first time without digging it up the second time.
Any other questions from the floor? No? One moment.
Hello. I sense a consistent theme of lobbying the government for more money. With all of you, you would agree. What does that mean to you? Because I want to elect the best lobbyist. In your words, how do you feel you're the best at lobbying for more money?
Brian, would you like to take that?
First, we'd have to create a relationship with the government, and on both federal and provincial levels, and also our local municipalities around us here, and getting together, sitting down, getting to know each other one-on-one, and then start asking for funding for particular projects in our areas that we would be like to see that would come to Nipawin.
And Carrie.
So if I was to lobby, of course, it would be about crime, and I would use the statistics from our RCMP from all the years, and it's progressively getting worse every year. And you know, statistics don't lie, and stats sell. And so I would use the statistics from our RCMP and whatever we could assemble, and I would lobby definitely for policing. But I mean, there's a very solid case, and it's black and white, that crime is getting much worse. Drugs and crime are getting worse. Thank you.
And Marlon.
I guess what would make me a good candidate in terms of lobbying, so over the past year I've worked very hard, and prior to this in terms of building some relationships already with our government officials. We have the ability to pick up the phone and call some of these MPs and MLAs directly already, and just as a vacuum salesman, I'm relentless. So it's all about not giving up, presenting the stats, bringing in the research, and with that we'll partner and work with our administration. They'll be able to provide a lot of that information for us, and just be absolutely relentless and don't take no for an answer.
Thank you. So now I've had a few questions here, or I do have a few questions that relate to the situation with our former mayor and the ethics investigation. Some of the questions are framed in such a way that I don't feel would necessarily be fair to all the candidates to have to answer that. So what I would like to do, I mean, all three of you have some experience with the former administration, and at different levels, whether it was through scrutiny, employment, or being on council during the time. Could you just take a moment to speak on your experience, what you think about that, whether it was right, wrong, just your thoughts on the whole situation? I mean, just your thoughts in general on the whole situation, the investigation, the results, whether there's culpability still, whether it's wrapped up, whether we still need to be thinking about it, whether we can just move on. You're first, Carrie.
Well, I said I wasn't going to go there, but since you asked, here we're going to go. So my opinion of what's happened over the past 3 years prior to this year, I feel strongly that a municipal investigation should have been undertaken. It should have been municipal affairs should have been contacted, and I think that investigation could have been done with no cost to the taxpayers. I also feel that the mayor, the former mayor, was one vote. There was 6 councillors at that table, and she is one vote. So it takes 2 to tango or 7 to vote. That's my opinion. So I don't think that she's completely responsible for everything that happened. I think it was a collaborative team. And if you put your hand up, I feel that you're just as responsible for what happened as she is. And I thank you for the question.
Thank you. Marlon.
I think the line that I look at is I'm ready to move forward. The town was ready to move forward. We had our election. It wasn't right the way some people were treated. I can definitely attest to that after taking some time and talking with some of the individuals who were involved in it. To speak on what happened in the past, though, I'm gonna let that go. My goal after my election was to move forward, to calm the ship, and to work well and create a wonderful environment for our staff and administration and for council as a whole. So right now, that's kind of where I stand. Is I'm ready to move forward and do better for Nipawin.
Thank you. And Brian, your thoughts?
Okay, thank you. I think I would like to leave that in the past. I'm looking forward to our future and a better future for us in Nipawin and surrounding areas. So I think I'd just like to leave that one as is.
Thank you very much. So I want to talk about taxes. Oh, sorry, there is a question from the floor. Just one moment, we'll bring you a mic.
Here you go.
Thank you, and I agree that's all in the past. What I would like to know is what form or sort of preventive measures have we learned and then measures that we can take to prevent reoccurrence of such things.
So I think the most important thing that we have to do to make sure this doesn't happen again is remember that as a council, we all have to hold each other accountable for each other's actions. It's not just one or two people there. There's 7 people sitting at the table, and they all have to be willing to hold each other accountable when they see things happening that shouldn't be happening. And that's the most important thing. Secondly, you know what? There's definitely some opportunity for potential training and looking into how we could take some ethics courses potentially. You know, it's part of we do have a policy in place, but maybe it's time that we spend a little more time reviewing that and working on that.
Thank you. And Brian?
I think we're hired as a team or elected as a team from you folks there, and that's what you expect out of us is a team effect. So I think we all have to be holding each other accountable.
And Carrie?
I think the most important thing is definitely the governance training, and I think it's really important for our mayors and our councils and our elected officials to remember that they have a voice, and if they don't agree with something that's happening, you ask for a recorded vote, you vote against it, and you explain why, and it's recorded in the minutes. I think it's really important to remember when you sit at that table, you still have a voice, and you have the ability to disagree with what's happening. But I also agree that I think we need to have good training, work as a team, and leave the past in the past and just go forward to be positive. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions from the floor. So my next question, which I'll ask to Brian first here. All of the issues facing our town will require financial commitment. Do you have any ideas how to increase funding to these problem areas without an undue burden to the taxpayer?
Well, I think all of us have been sitting here saying that we're going to be lobbying the government for more funding and working very closely with other municipalities for funding together as a group, and maybe joining some efforts like the fire protection. That's one of them, and it's possible there could be some bylaw enforcement along that lines too. So I mean, there's other ways that we have to look at it, and that's going to be part of it.
And Carrie. All of the issues facing our town will require financial commitment. Do you have any ideas how to increase funding to the problem areas without undue burden to the taxpayer?
Yeah, the only thing we can do is lobby our governments for more funding from them. And I think the partnership for sure is a really good thing. Like our fire partners agreement is wonderful for the neighboring municipalities. And if we could come up with some ways to share some of our responsibility with Tisdale and Melfort. At one time we had a wonderful relationship with those two communities. We had a tri-committee. I think that we just need to work together and share our resources, and that will save some funding with our municipality. Thank you.
Thank you. And Marlon?
So definitely, we want to definitely continue pushing to bring in funding from our governments to help with some of the situations we have. The only other ways that we can, bring money in as a municipality is through our tax system. And rather than increasing taxes, which is what none of us want, the only other thing we can do is work on economic growth. If we can bring in more people to help us with the tax burden in general, then it will help out overall. If we've got an extra 200 houses in Nipawin, that's 200 more people paying property tax. If there's an extra 100 businesses, that's 100 businesses paying property tax. I would much rather see our community grow and flourish and gain taxes through growth than through increased taxes on our current housing and business markets.
Thank you. So we're getting close to the end here. I've got one question that I've received from the floor, and we'll ask Carrie first here. What are your greatest strengths and weaknesses?
My greatest strengths is obviously I'm not afraid to speak up and say what I think, even if it offends people, and I believe in fair and just, and I believe in what's right, and I'll fight for what's right, and I'll fight for every citizen, regardless of whether you have white hair or whether you're a little child. Every person deserves fair treatment. And my weaknesses? I don't know if I have any weaknesses. Because I usually just say it the way it is. I don't think I have a lot of weaknesses, but I will stand very proud for every citizen in this community, regardless of whether your hair is white or whether you're 4 or whether you're 6. And I think there's people in this community that are falling through the cracks, and I believe a big part of them are our seniors. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. And Marlon?
Yeah, it's definitely one of those questions that make you think a little bit internally. In terms of strengths, I think one of my biggest strengths is my ability to bring people to the table and have real conversations and not just talk and spout out my opinions or my ideas, but really truly sit down and listen to the ideas and the concerns coming from the community. That's a big thing that I definitely work on all the time. In terms of weaknesses, I thought about this last time I ran as well, and one thing that questions came to us a lot over the last year and a half, couple of years, was actually on healthcare. And there were some questions came to the table, and I wasn't able to answer them. I don't know a lot about our healthcare system. So what I've learned from that is to work on finding people to bring in around me that I can work with and lean on for support and ideas, and finding the information we need. Maybe I don't have it myself, but being able to find it from other people. So that's one of my weaknesses would be I don't know everything. So I have to rely on help.
Thank you. And Brian?
Thank you. I'm not afraid to talk to people if it's one-on-one or in a group. I have no problem that way at all. So I think that's one of my good strengths. And if I'm weak on something, I'm sure Carrie would tell me what I'm weak at.
Thank you. So that's going to bring us to our closing comments. Oh, we've got one quick question from the floor here.
It's not really a question, just I don't know, just maybe some advice. I would suggest to each one of you, if you become mayor, to always remember to treat people with respect, understanding, and dignity, including your fellow councillors, including staff that work at the town office, taxpayers, and as mayor, please be honest with your fellow councillors and information you bring to them. Thank you.
Thank you. So for the closing comments, each candidate will have 3 minutes to speak. We'll begin with Marlon.
Thank you, Ben. As a father, I know what it means to love my family unconditionally and always want what's best for them. This desire to always want what's best helps guide me in my role as mayor. I love this community, my home. Being a positive advocate for Nipawin has always been important to me. I couldn't count the number of hours I've spent talking about a fishing trip, hunting experience, or a snowmobile excursion with almost anyone who would listen. Even when we as a community are struggling with various issues, I don't forget just how awesome it is to live here. I bring the same positive leadership to the council table every day. Over the past year, I've worked to reach targets that I campaigned on and set for myself. I've met with all of our surrounding municipal partners and developed strong working relationships with them. I completed various training programs, including our Municipal Economic Development Fundamentals program and our Municipal Leadership Roles and Responsibilities program. I continue to improve myself to help me serve as mayor. While talking to the community this year, it is clear that crime is the priority. This was and still is the hardest concern for us as a council to tackle. In light of this, under my leadership, we were able to start making changes that directly push back against some of the crime in Nipawin. We will continue to support these changes and look for new ways to reduce crime throughout the community and advocate for improved safety for everyone. I have also built a solid working relationship with our local detachment and the new staff sergeant, and will continue to support the hard work they do in our community. Starting after my election last year, I prioritized creating a plan for growth. This plan started with a budget that laid groundwork for short and long-term growth and included our official community plan that will be used to guide our town through the next 10 years. I have started the ball rolling in my first year as mayor, and now I plan to use my experience to continue pushing into the future, working with the next council on the next steps in our plan for growth. Thank you for coming tonight, asking your questions, and being a part of this process. And thank you for your upcoming vote of support on Election Day. I'm Marlon Zacharias, and Nipawin is ready for growth.
Thank you, Marlon. Brian, would you like to go next?
Thank you. Now that I'm semi-retired, I have the time to devote to the mayor's position. I know the understandings of the town of Nipawin, and I have the knowledge of the importance of the finances. So partnering and working with other municipalities would be a way to save some funding. We must ensure that our infrastructure is in good condition, and we must promote tourism and have and work with each other that way. One of main concerns is the health and safety of our residents. That's why we should be working with the RCMP to see how we can help reduce crime. There is no way I can do this myself. We need everybody working together, council, administration, town staff, and as well as all the residents. We must keep an open mind and must listen to our residents and the rest of the council members that are willing to work for the changes. Funding through grants, partnerships, and other stable financial streams will be a priority. I ask for your trust and support at the advance poll this Thursday at the town office from 5 p.m. till 8 p.m. or Election Day Wednesday, November 13th at the Evergreen Center from 9 a.m. till 8 p.m. I look forward working for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. And I'll ask you to bring us home there, Carrie.
In closing, I'd like to extend my sincere gratitude to the Nipawin District Chamber of Commerce and the Nipawin Alliance Church for hosting us this evening. Thank you for providing us this opportunity to connect directly with you, the residents of Nipawin, and to discuss our vision for the future. I'd like to also congratulate Marlon and Brian for standing alongside me as candidates in this very important race. Running for office is no small task. It takes courage and shared dedication for the well-being of our community. I'm honored to stand with people who care as deeply about Nipawin as I do. As a longtime resident and business owner, I've had the privilege of witnessing Nipawin's incredible strengths, its hardworking people, its vibrant businesses, and our tight-knit community. But I'm also keenly aware of the challenges that we face. It's these challenges that have driven me to run for mayor. I believe we can accomplish great things. For Nipawin, with the right leadership, we can work together to create a safer, stronger, and more vibrant community. My approach to leadership is rooted in the business mind perspective. With over 25 years of business experience, 4 years on our town council, I understand the importance of fiscal responsibility. Our town's budget is more than just numbers. It represents the livelihoods and aspirations of every resident in this community. I'm committed to ensuring that every dollar is spent wisely and that we provide essential services you depend on while keeping any tax increases to an absolute minimum. When we do need to raise our taxes, we must do so thoughtfully, transparently, and only when necessary to meet the needs of our community. Our town faces several pressing issues, from our safety concerns to our social challenges like mental health and addiction, which I believe directly impact the crime and homelessness in this community. As your mayor, I will make it my priority to address these issues head on. The safety and well-being of our emergency service personnel, our RCMP officers, our paramedics, bylaw officers, and our firefighters, alongside with our healthcare workers who risk their own safety every day to care for us, are crucial to the health of this community. While I don't claim that I'll have all the answers, I will promise you this: I will listen to your concerns, I will work tirelessly, I will be fair, transparent, and an honest leader. Together we can find solutions that address the root cause of these issues and create a safer, healthier Nipawin. I envision Nipawin where we all feel safe, valued, and very proud to call our home. A place where businesses thrive, families grow, and every individual, whether you're young or entering your golden years, feel that they have a place within the community. Today I'm asking for your trust and your vote in this critical election. As your mayor, I will work hard with the council, our residents, and all levels of government to ensure that Nipawin remains a place where we can succeed, our children can grow, and we can all enjoy our golden years in peace and comfort. I thank you for your time and in advance for your support. Let's work together to build a brighter future for Nipawin, and may the best man or woman win.
Thank you, candidates. So once again, I just want to extend some thank yous. First of all, to Lisa from the Chamber for organizing this event, to our three candidates for attending and answering all of our somewhat difficult questions. I want to thank Jordan and Chantel from the Apostolic Church for providing the venue for us. It was fantastic, as always. I'd like to thank Norm from CJNE The Storm for helping us broadcast the event. I certainly want to thank everybody for attending, listening, and watching on Facebook. And I just want to quickly give some information here. Again, like Brian said, the advance poll is on Thursday, November 7th from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Town of Nipawin Civic Office. We have a special poll Tuesday, November 5th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Pineview Lodge, which is open to Pineview Lodge residents and staff, Nipawin Hospital patients and staff. And the regular poll, which is held Wednesday, November 13th from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Evergreen Center. It's in all of our interest to get out and vote for the best candidates. And remember, this is not just for mayor. There's going to be the councilors election as well, which we will be holding a forum for them the day after tomorrow. Same place, same time here at the Apostolic Church. And we'd love for all of you to come attend and provide us with some great questions like you did tonight. And so thank you, everybody, and good night.